Hello there and welcome back to Dúchascopy TV. I'm Doireann Mc Dermott and today we're going to have a look at Iran, as it has been under the spotlight for quite some time now and will continue to be so, as Iran's elections are happening in June, and of course there are some discussions happening next week focusing on nuclear talks between Iran and global leaders. On this subject today I have Francois Aubert with me, and he is quite an expert on this area. Welcome back to the studio.
It's a pleasure to be back.
So Francois, can you just tell me about some of the tensions and of course developments you're expecting, and what do you expect to see from the talks?
Well, the first thing is we often don't realize the historical importance of Iran, and Iran used to be a quite local superpower, if you will, and here I'm going back hundreds of years ago. So this is a quite large country, actually one of the largest of the area, with 75 million people. And that is actually under sanctions since '79. So they developed quite an almost self-sufficient economy for a little while. Now, of course, there are a lot of talks, and we see the elections coming. We know that there are tensions between the president, Ahmadinejad, and the supreme leader. And we know that Mr. Ahmadinejad will not be a candidate again. But we don't have a clear picture of what will be the next leaders there. We know that the population is not happy, and it's not for political reason. They are not happy because they are actually suffering from the sanctions. If we look at the idea of having the Iranian changing their mind, I'm not sure it will really happen. Actually, if we look back in history, sanctions really never worked. They have a big advantage. They are avoiding a war, but they're not really worked. So that's one of the key elements. The other key element is Hormuz, of course, that little Detroit down there. And that little place sees a lot of boats every day with a lot of oil. And actually, this is one of the big bargains of the Iranian. Now, that bargain will also go to an end, because actually there is a new pipeline built in the United Arab Emirates, in yellow here, that will actually exit on the Oman Sea, on the east part of the Detroit. So it means that at the end of the day, they will not need that little place, Hormuz, anymore, but probably in a year time. So a lot of bargains these days, plus an American president that probably will want to mark his time as all his predecessors, and it will be interesting to see how the Americans will evolve on that topic. And I will not be surprised actually to see talks happening again between the Americans and the Iranian in the coming 1 year or two, and that could be quite a change in the area.
And Francois, focusing on Iran's currency, the rial, now it has been struggling for quite some time now and actually hit an all-time low on February 2nd. Now this is due to sanctions and of course shortage of cash. Now what are you expecting to see in terms of this currency?
Iranians are blaming a lot the government more than actually the sanctions on that, interestingly. We have seen a dramatic evolution. At the end of 2011, $1 was worth about 10,000, 12,000 rials. Now it's about 39,000 rials. So it's a huge change of the time, and of course people are suffering a lot. There is a second rate available actually, which is around 24,000 rials per dollar, but this is a sponsored rate, and it's mostly for to help companies buying pharmaceutical goods and food and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, people are suffering a lot. And the other big hit for them is the fact that the Iran Central Bank is outside of the international system. So although they developed their own internal system, they have the ATM machines with their own network, they still can't go outside. And that is creating a huge problem. And that's also creating a huge payment problem. So the oil is sold to a number of countries, all in Asia. And of course, these countries know the situation. So it means that Iranians are not capable to sell the oil at the normal price. They have to do it at a bargain. And some countries, India for instance, is saying, well, you know what, we will not give you cash because we can't. We'll do barter trade. So you will have to buy goods, Indian goods. And altogether, this is creating a huge shortage. And it's quite difficult for the population because, again, the wealthy individuals, they have ways to do. And they go a lot in Azerbaijan, even in Afghanistan, in Afghan banks, and in other places where they try to make their business. But the poor people are just suffering from the situation. And I think that they will expect a lot from the next government. What the government will be able to do is another question.
Thanks, Francois. And now moving on to other areas of the Middle East, what should we be concerned about? Will we see any improvements in political developments and tensions? What are you thinking?
Well, the first thing is we now see the fact that the Arab Spring was not that a good idea. We, as Europeans and Americans, Western world, we often see the idea of democracy being the best thing in the world. One can ask himself whether a democracy is the best thing for a Middle Eastern country, because culturally speaking, this is not what they're looking for. They are looking for a leader. So that's the first thing. And what we see now in Egypt, what we see in Tunisia, is the fact that we have a lot of instability. Now we will have new elections in Egypt. They were announced, I think, this morning. I mean, we knew it will happen, but the calendar, the schedule has been announced, and it's again a very complex process over 2 or 3 months, and we'll see what comes out. We, of course, have the Syrian case, and the Syrian case is a case where everybody is involved one way or the other, either in financing or in giving weapons or whatever. And I'm afraid that will continue, with the risk now to have an extension to Lebanon, and that is a very serious concern. So that also is creating something. We will have a new government in Israel, although it's probably Mr. Netanyahu who will lead that government. We know that the equilibriums are different. So that might also have an impact on the evolution in the region. We have Bahrain that again is a bit under tensions. So we have a lot of little pocket of extensions. And on the other side, we have good news. I mean, Saudi is doing pretty well. The United Arab Emirates are doing well now as well, because Dubai is pretty much back on track. We don't speak a lot about Oman, but it's going on as well. So we also have some stable places. But we have a big area in the Middle East that is under pretty tough, in a tough situation, and that is mostly, of course, Iran, Syria, and Egypt. And we are talking about a big chunk of the population in the Middle East.
Thank you very much. Now, having a look at our very special question today, it is our Dukascopy question. Now, if you had 1 million, Francois, where would you invest it? Would it be real estate, equity, bonds, gold, cash, oil? What is your choice today?
Well, basically, I think oil is pretty fairly priced. Gold is a good short-term idea, but only short-term. Cash doesn't bring anything. Bonds will have very low interest rates. Real estate, it really depends. It's market per market. So I think I'll go to equity, preferably in growing countries, obviously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, viewers, that is it for right now, but do stay tuned to Dukascopy TV for more interviews and press reviews. But for now, goodbye.